and gentlemen, welcome to the Payoff Pitch. My name is Joey Olberding, and I will be your host for all things sports. So on this Thursday, October 31st, Halloween, we're going to talk about the NBA. But first, I want to talk about baseball. Yes, in baseball, something very big happened last night. It was the Washington Nationals defeating the Houston Astros in 7 games in Houston. Now, normally I only focus on one topic when it comes to payoff pitches, but this is so special for me personally because this World Series was one of the most exciting, well, of the past decade, certainly. In terms of exciting World Series, I would say that the Cardinals-Rangers matchup from 2011 and the Astros-Dodgers matchup from 2017 are the only ones to match this series. The thing is, those series had walk-offs. This series really didn't, and that's what makes it so interesting to me as to why I find it so exciting, personally. The thing is, this game was 7 games, but it has so many weird, odd little facts about it that really don't make much sense to me, but are really cool. For instance, no team won a home game in this series. The Astros dropped all four of their home games, and the Nationals dropped all 3 of theirs. Which is why the Nationals were able to come from behind, I suppose, because home field advantage just didn't exist. A place where they really were more uncomfortable there than they were, at Nationals Park, the Astros were, or something like that. It was very interesting. It was also interesting to see how important the pitching was. Both these teams kind of made their names off of great pitching. Now, the Astros not so much because they have a terrific offense, but they are all known, both teams, for having a sort of 3-headed monster in terms of pitching. With the Astros, that being Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and the newly acquired at the time, Zach Greinke this past year. And then on the other side, for the Nationals, you have Max Scherzer, you have Steven Strasburg, and the newly acquired this year, Patrick Corbin. But it was really interesting to me to see people step up, really, especially for the Nationals. I think that Howie Kendrick, the 36-year-old journeyman shortstop, second baseman, outfielder, utility man, I believe he should have won World Series MVP because he came in with clutch hit after clutch hit. Now, he did win NLCS MVP, which was against the Cardinals. But to me, I feel as if he maybe deserved to win, but so many players would have won the World Series MVP in a normal year. Anthony Rendon was so clutch for the Washington Nationals. He very well could have done it. Max Scherzer pitched a great Game 7, maybe deserving MVP just for that start alone. But the World Series MVP, and I can't even be upset about it at all, had to go to Steven Strasburg. He had an ERA of, I believe, 1.48 in 2 games in the World Series, absolutely decimating the extraordinary offense of the Houston Astros. Great job by the Washington Nationals. Coming into this year, the Washington Nationals did not look good. They did not look good at all, in fact. They started off the year, I believe, 19-31. That is not good. That's 12 games under 500, and you're only 50 games in. That is horrible. That is a manager's worst nightmare right there, especially for a team that was supposed to contend. But after that, things just clicked. I like to think that the reason why they weren't doing so well is because Bryce Harper left in free agency for Philadelphia. Now, of course, that's almost certainly not the reason, because that's only one player. I understand that Bryce Harper is a sort of star in Washington, or at least was, but I think it's important to mention the fact that these players, aside from the newly acquired ones, such as Patrick Corbin, have always been contributing. Seeing Ryan Zimmerman finally be able to win a title really makes me happy because he's given so much to the Washington organization. He's been there the entire history of the Nationals and been in baseball even longer than that. To see whether he'll retire or not, I don't think so. Zimmerman is a National for life, no doubt. And I think that he will be there for life. I feel like after he retires, he'll get some sort of role in the front office, and he'll be with Washington until, well, death, I suppose. He really is just that type of player. He's every team's dream because he just wants to be there and he wants to help people out. But Washington, you won. You beat the Astros, and the Astros did great in this series, too. It's really amazing. They won games, winner-take-all games, like a wild card or a game 7 3 times. And all 3 of those times were come from behind victories. Really amazing stuff by Washington. To see whether they'll be able to repeat is a bit of a stretch right now because we don't know what's going to happen in free agency. But right now, it's very exciting. But now I want to talk about the NBA. So the NBA season started about a week or so ago, but I've been paying very close attention since the end of last season. I've seen the teams and I've seen their dynamics and I've seen how they're going to improve or, well, not improve over the course of this next year, and their additions during free agency also helped in that department. I really did see a lot from each and every team, but I only want to talk about the teams who I think will do well enough to earn a postseason spot. I really do think it's very interesting, these teams, all of them. I think they're all so good. It's really, even a bad NBA team, I feel like 5 years ago could have made the playoffs. Probably in the Eastern Conference, maybe not the Western Conference, but the Memphis Grizzlies, not my projections, but just projections all around, seem to be the worst team. They're number 15, but when I look at that team, a few days ago, Jay Crowder hit a walk-off three-pointer. I say walk-off because I'm still in baseball mode. I haven't quite switched to the NBA yet. And it was really amazing. It made me say, this Grizzlies team isn't bad. But then I look at literally every other team in the Western Conference, and I'm like, yeesh, I'm not so sure. I can't even really name a team that I think has no chance of making the playoffs, especially in the West. Every single team. The team that most people would probably say has the smallest amount of chance now is the Golden State Warriors, with Stephen Curry getting his hand broken and really not having much going for them. And then, of course, on the other side, on the Eastern Conference, there's 2 teams that would make the playoffs in the West. There's always been that divide, is what I'm saying. But since I just mentioned the East, I figured I'd start there in terms of my predictions for the playoffs. Now, the 1 seed I think is going to be the Bucks. Not because I particularly like what they did over the offseason. In fact, I dislike it a lot. They're in the sort of situation where you can't really do much. It was either re-sign Chris Middleton, who's been terrific for you, or re-sign a bunch of other smaller players, and they did the best they could. But they lost my man, Malcolm Brogdon. He went to Indiana, who I will talk about in a little bit, which I thought was very unfortunate. But they still have Giannis. They still have Brook Lopez. They still have Chris Middleton. They also have Eric Bledsoe, who often doesn't get discussed in this sort of thing. I think that they are looking very good right now. I think that the reason why I think they'll be the 1 seed is because, well, the East really hasn't found an answer for Giannis yet. I feel like the answer they'll come up with is sort of just get everybody on him and make other people take shots, sort of what they did to, I believe it was the Cavs a few years ago, when they just targeted LeBron James, I suppose, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I think the Bucks will be great this year, because there really is not that much competition. And I feel like that's a bit of a rude thing to say, because of course there is. Every team in the NBA is good. Even the Charlotte Hornets have been looking pretty good so far this year. But we will see. We will see. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers are my second team, but I've always been a little shaky on Philadelphia because I've never been a big fan of Ben Simmons. I mean, he's obviously a great player. He's probably going to be a perennial all-star in the coming future, but I'm not sure about his ability to be able to lead a team to the finals. He's obviously been very successful. And now they have Al Horford, who's a fantastic player. I love that guy. But we will have to see. They have Tobias Harris. They have Joel Embiid. They definitely have a great team. They have 4 amazing players as starters, and that's really going to get you a lot of wins by itself. So no trouble there, I suppose. The 76ers are going to be a lot like the 76ers of years past, barring any injuries. Next, my team is the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are kind of in a similar boat to the 76ers, except they're much more unproven. Their new star player is Kemba Walker. I love him. Kemba Walker is going to be great. Someday, Someday we'll look back on Kemba Walker and be like, yeah, he was the greatest person ever. Like a Nobel Peace Prize winner or something like that. Except in basketball, which I think is just an MVP. But anyways, all the players on this team are incredible. Really, I like all these players. There's no player that I see and I'm like, yikes. This is your starting five if you're Boston. Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, a fantastic defensive player, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Enes Kanter. That is a recipe for success. And all these players, I bet they will play well together. I bet you. Since Marcus Smart and Enes Kanter can be more of a defensive-minded, you can have Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker just go to the basket. Jaylen Brown can do both pretty well. And you have Gordon Hayward on the bench. That's amazing. That is a great team right there. And really, just reading this aloud to myself, really thinking about the Celtics themselves is really what's making me like this team is going to do something special. My number 4 team is the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets have always been a team that has fascinated me. And I say always because of the fact that they just really got rid of so many assets. Now, of course, they didn't have Kevin Durant this year, which is why I don't put them at like number 1 or something like that. I just cannot believe that a team that went from all about chemistry so quickly went to, let's just win now and get rid of a lot of the players that made us so good. But they still have the players I really like from their time. They got rid of D'Angelo Russell, which I suppose had to happen if you're going to free up space for Kyrie Irving. I suppose it's what you had to do. Joe Harris is a very good three-point shooter. I remember a few years ago he was the most average player in the league, and now he's turned into one of the more above-average players in the league, especially when it comes to three-point shooting. And on the bench, you have Jarrett Allen and Spencer Dinwiddie, 2 fantastic young players who I think will only get better and better as time goes on. I like to dub them as the Clippers of the East, and I'm sure other people would as well, just because of the fact they brought in new talent. One of their new stars is injured, and they have a fantastic bench. Now, obviously, the injury issues are different, but you see what I mean. It's not supposed to really be that accurate, It is what it is. My next team is the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors, who won it all last year, I think are going to be good this year. Very good. I think it's a little amazing the fact that nobody really seems to care about them. They won it all last year, and they did it really well, but because Kawhi is gone, it's just like, whoop, on to the next team. But they still have a fantastic team. Aside from Kawhi, they kept everybody. And they really look good. Kyle Lowry is great. They have Pascal Siakam, who's only getting better and better. You have Marc Gasol, who everybody forgets about how great Marc Gasol is. Seriously. Fred VanVleet, who's been killing it so far this year, and Serge Ibaka, who's another great defensive player. And the thing is, something that's important to mention, I think, is Kawhi is such a leader. He's such a leader for the team. But the thing is, all the leadership that Kawhi taught them in only just 1 year, I think will do really well in helping them get focus for this upcoming year. They taught them a lot about defensive pressure and the importance of it. And now that Kawhi's gone on to the West, other teams haven't figured out Toronto yet. Just because, Toronto won. You can see it just in that. But the fact of the matter is, because they won't be facing teams that have Kawhi, I mean, of course, you're going to win more in that case. I think that the Raptors have an edge just because they have the mindset of Kawhi Leonard still in their brains and his defensive and offensive prowess. I think it's really going to help just because of that. A great team. My next team, my 6th seed, is a bit of a surprise, I suppose. Not everybody will expect this team. The Atlanta Hawks. I'll be the first to admit, last year, not a Hawks believer at all, and I'm still kind of skeptical. It's not Trae Young that I really like. I'm not a huge Trae Young fan at the moment, but I am a fan of all their young talent. I'm especially a fan of John Collins and Alex Len, especially John Collins. John Collins is a fantastic player. I like him a lot. I really think he'll do some good stuff. And I think that because of that, the Hawks might be able to sneak into a 6th seed. Now, that is something that not too many people would expect, but it's something that I think is very possible. My next team is the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat just got Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler, of course, is a very good player. I think that Jimmy Butler knows how to run an offense, and being kind of in a secondary role, even when he was in Minnesota, even when he was in Philadelphia, it just doesn't really work for him, to me. Jimmy Butler is a player that will do well when he has the ball and when he can sort of control the flow of offense. And you have good big men behind you. You have Bam Adebayo, and you have other people such as that. Kelly Olynyk, who can play both. He's very good. Goran Dragic is still a solid player. It's the East, so this is just a solid team, but I think that they'll be able to make it. My next one, my 8th seed, is actually sort of a weird decision. So the Pacers are projected to do really well this year. But let me tell you, through a few games, the Pacers have looked absolutely abysmal. So because of that, I'm taking a team that I didn't think I would have. I'm taking the Detroit Pistons. I think that the Pacers will be the bust of this year, really, for either league. You know, when you have the Hawks, you need to have a team that takes the Hawks' place, you know? I think that'll be the Pacers. I think that their coaching is just in shambles right now, and I just don't think it looks good. Malcolm Brogdon, my friend, I think he'll do great, but other than that, I'm just not sure. The reason why I picked the Detroit Pistons out of all the other teams instead of like the Orlando Magic or somebody like that is because I am a huge believer in Derrick Rose. I am a huge believer in Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin's also good. The one thing I hate about the Pistons is they just can't get anybody. They just don't care about guards. I don't understand it for the love of it. They have this guy named Bruce Brown who's their shooting guard. I'll be honest, I've never heard of this guy. And I pay very close attention to the NBA, I like to think. You have Luke Kennard on the bench, who, why isn't he starting at the moment? They need to change that soon, and I think that they will, for the record. But they gotta do that, because when they do, the Pistons, I think, will elevate to a whole nother level. Reggie Jackson had a bad year last year, so let's just say that he gets benched because he does poorly again. You can still have a starting lineup of Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, Tony Snell, who's pretty alright, Blake Griffin, and Andre Drummond. Aside from Snell, who's alright, that is a great team. That is a team that if you have the chemistry for, which I think that the Pistons have kind of been brewing a chemistry potion in a pot of sadness for the past few years, I think that it'll work out. I really do. And really, this is their year that they have to win, so I think that they will make some trades too if it isn't going too well. For win now, I mean. And that's the East. That is the Eastern Conference for me. So I'm going to move to the Western Conference. The Western Conference is another pretty interesting one, I think. It's one of those things. It's one of those things indeed. There's a lot of good players in the Western Conference. There's a lot of good teams in the Western Conference, and it's so hard to pick just 8. I really could pick every single team to make the playoffs for a different reason. I mean, just look at the Warriors. I was talking about the Warriors earlier, like the team that would be most likely to miss the playoffs. But you can just say Steve Kerr, and I would agree with you. Like, yeah, Steve Kerr. And then I put them as the 1 seed again. But my number 1 team in the East, or the opposite of the East, is actually the Clippers this year. I think that the Clippers are going to be very good. I want to say for the record, I do not really like the moves the Clippers made this year, but I will admit that it brings them closer to winning a championship just because they got Kawhi Leonard. I mean, that's really all you need. But I'll be honest, I love Paul George, but I wasn't sure that trading so many assets and so many draft picks to the Thunder is really worth it. Now, the Thunder, they're obviously not in contention this year. Good on them for, I guess, blowing it up, I guess. But I'm not sure. But The Clippers, I do think, are the best team in the Western Conference, by extension, probably the best team in the league. And they still have Lou Williams, who is my friend, so I can't just take them out of the playoffs. They'll still do really well. This is the insane thing. Okay, you have a pretty damn good starting lineup. You have a great starting lineup, I would even say. You have Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Ivica Zubac, who's pretty good. But the bench is insane. Just because you have Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. That's really all you need. Because those two players are all-stars. They could be perennial all-stars if they started. I think that, honestly, if they got given the ball more, Lou Williams is my friend. So he will do well. I will make him. They're just so good. I don't know how else to put it, really. They are just an amazing team that I think will do well. Now, I think that the Jazz will do well. I don't necessarily think that their pickup of Mike Conley is great, but picking up Bojan Bogdanovic, oh my god, that is such a good move for the Jazz. I don't know how to express it. They picked up Jeff Green. Jeff Green can be so good sometimes. This team looks good. This team looks very good. The Utah Jazz do. You have Mike Conley, who's always been good, even though this year he's going to regress a bit, but he's still worth the contract that the Jazz are giving him. Donovan Mitchell, who's just absolutely fantastic. Bojan Bogdanovic, who, I don't know why, but like I said earlier, with Kemba Walker, we're going to look back on him and be like, this guy was the best person ever. Bojan Bogdanovic is going to be that, but for like, quote-unquote average players. Like, sometimes you have a player that comes along that's so solid that, he can't be anything more than solid, but he's just so solid. He's such a solid, good player. And that is Bojan Bogdanovic, and he can really make your team great. Even though he's good, makes a team great. Look at the Pacers last year. That gave so many people hope about the Pacers. But because they got rid of Bogdanovic, I'm pretty sour on them right now. Joe Ingles, who's very good at shooting three-pointers. Rudy Gobert, who's very good at stopping basketballs. The Jazz will also be very, very good this year. In terms of my next team, the Denver Nuggets, I have always believed in the Nuggets so much. The Nuggets have been my team since Nikola Jokic started throwing 60-foot passes to a point guard or whatever. He is incredible. And I like the fact that people are finally starting to take notes on it. The Nuggets are a very no-drama team. I can't say I've thought of any drama with the Nuggets since, 2014. The Nuggets are very good. And aside from Jokic, they don't really have anybody that stands out. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Torrey Craig, Paul Millsap, Nikola Jokic. One of those names should really stick out to you. And it's not Paul Millsap. But I do like Paul Millsap a lot. He's kind of up there in age, but he's great. When you look at the 7 best players, you don't even see, Michael Porter Jr. there, who, to be fair, has been very inconsistent. Mason Plumlee's not even there. This team is so stacked. It doesn't matter if, Nikola Jokic breaks his hand like Steph Curry. They will find a way to get the 3 seed. I think that their management is just that good, too. My next team, my number 4 seed, is going to be the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are a team that I've always liked. I know a lot of people don't, but I always kind of like James Harden's style. But I think I'm one of the many people that thinks that the addition of Russell Westbrook is not the greatest thing. I've never really been a big just shoot the 3 kind of guy. And I've always liked Chris Paul, even though when he was with the Rockets, he shot a lot of 3-pointers. But I digress. The fact that Russell Westbrook's here is good, and it's bad. The good is that they'll be able to make a lot of points. But the bad is they lose quite a bit of defense. They are not the best that they've ever been now. Just because of that, I feel like they could be better. They still have Capella. They still have P.J. Tucker. They still have Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon did not have a great year last year, but he's a good player. He's a very good player. And I still think that the Rockets are good enough at shooting three-pointers or great enough at shooting three-pointers that they will be good and they will be set. All right, my number 5 team is a bit of a surprise, but I hope that you guys are not shocked. My friend Luka Doncic is very good at basketball, and he's bringing his friends to come be good at basketball with him. Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic already makes you at least the 8th seed for me. Just Luka Doncic already makes you an 8th seed for me. I don't know. I think that's really it. I don't think there's anybody else on this Mavericks team who really screams to me, who really makes me say, yeah, this team's good. Like, Delon Wright, he's okay. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's okay. Dwight Powell, he's okay. Luka Doncic, yes, that's what I want. I don't think I've ever liked a rookie as much as I've liked Luka Doncic, or at least I did last year. There's a lot of promise in like New Orleans for a very entertaining, or Memphis, but Luka Doncic, I think that love that guy so much. Just because of that, you're the 5 seed. That means that I like you. That means that I think you're good. I am upset. I'm upset at the world for just forgetting about the Portland Trailblazers. I hate the world for forgetting that Damian Lillard is God. Well, not actually, but he's a god at hitting really clutch shots. He's just so good. We all forget that. And they haven't changed since last year. They dropped Cancer. They brought in Hassan Whiteside, a probably better player. And they keep everybody else that's important. They got rid of a few guys like Al-Farouq Aminu and stuff and people like that. But they have good players still, very good players. In fact, they got Kent Bazemore and Anthony Tolliver from the Hawks and Hassan Whiteside. So there is a decent amount of change. I'm kind of under-exaggerating, I guess. But Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Rodney Hood, Zach Collins. Zach Collins is going to emerge this year. He's going to emerge from somewhere and be great. That is what I think from the bottom of my heart. Now, I dislike saying this, but I guess I have to put the Lakers on here somewhere. I really tried hard, right? I tried hard to think of a reason why I don't think the Lakers will make the playoffs. It's not like I dislike anybody on the Lakers. In fact, that's the worst part. I like so many players on this team. I love Danny Green, such a good player. I like Anthony Davis quite a bit, even though, the whole Pelicans thing was a bit of a And Dwight Howard's good, and I love Kyle Kuzma. I tried to think of a reason to say the Lakers will not make the playoffs, just to have that hot take, just to have that satisfaction of not having LeBron James reach the playoffs 2 years in a row. But I can't do that. Anthony Davis is very, very good, and LeBron James is very, 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 very good. And you have Kyle Kuzma on the bench. That should be enough to show you how good this team is. When you have to sit Kyle Kuzma and be like, oh no, you can't be on the court with these guys, you're not good enough. That's how you know that this is a team that'll probably reach the postseason. And the thing is, Anthony Davis and LeBron James can play a lot of positions, especially LeBron. LeBron can really play every position, except for maybe center, which I guess that's why they have Dwight Howard. They don't even have JaVale McGee in the top 7, and JaVale McGee had the best year of his career last year. They have Avery Bradley, and it's so incredible to me that this team is so good, and yet I'm still skeptical. My 8th seed is a bit of a surprise. It's not like Dallas Mavericks surprise, where it's like, yeah, I kind of expected that. It's not even like the Pelicans or someone who was my other team who I was very excited about, who I thought would be able to do something. No, it's actually a team that a lot of people really think are going to be horrible. That would be the Phoenix Suns. And it was really tough because I wanted to put the Spurs here. I wanted to put the Grizzlies here. I wanted to put a lot of teams here. But the Suns are my team because right now they are dominating in the league. There are no teams that I think, wow, this team is really going to do what I want them to do, which is to win, like the Suns have. I've never been so happy to see a team succeed than the Suns, especially as someone from Cincinnati who, we haven't had an NBA team in like just about 50 years now. Seeing the Suns succeed makes me happy because I've been a believer in the Suns since really Devin Booker signed with them. I've been a believer for a while, and every year I say the Suns are going to do something this year. They might not reach the playoffs, but they'll make a step. And well, they made a step, probably in the right direction, in the fact that they've done poorly. But this year is different. They're doing very well right now, and I think that they can maintain it. Their group is young. I believe their oldest player right now is Ricky Rubio, who, what a good guy to have around as the oldest guy in that group. That is such a good guy to have around. Really good job by Phoenix in that department, I suppose. I just think DeAndre Ayton gonna have a breakout year this year. I feel it in my heart. I just think that this team is going to be so... I don't know how else to express it, really. Nobody they drafted really makes me say, oh, wow. But all the other guys they brought in, Aaron Baines, Frank Kaminsky, Ricky Rubio, as previously mentioned. It's very win now, but people aren't treating them seriously whatsoever. But I'm a big Phoenix fan. I think they'll do great. I think they'll make the postseason and then probably promptly get swept by the Clippers. But that does not matter. What matters is the heart, the soul of the Phoenix Suns, and who I believe will be able to make the NBA postseason this year. But in terms of the actual postseason, I'm not really sure about every series. They could go either way. But my finals is really what matters in the end, to me personally. I think that the Clippers are going to beat whoever else. I think they'll beat the Suns. After that, I think they'll beat probably the Nuggets. And I think that the Clippers will go on to face the Toronto Raptors. That's right. The spirit of Kawhi Leonard rests in two teams, and they will duke it out to see who is superior. This is the battle for custody of Kawhi Leonard's soul, and the winner will be the champion of the NBA. I think it'll be the Clippers because I love the Clippers team so much. I think that they are so good, but it really is what it is, I suppose. I think that the Raptors would probably promptly get swept, but I think that I could see the Celtics there. I could see the Nets there. I could see the Bucks, the 76ers. What I'm saying is that the Eastern Conference is horrible in comparison to the Western Conference. All I'm saying is the Grizzlies could be the 3 seed in the East. I know that is a very hot take, but that is the take I'm going with. John Morant is very good. Jaren Jackson Jr., very good. But with that, I think that'll do it for this week's edition of the Payoff Pitch. If you enjoyed, make sure to check us out on TuneIn Radio 95.7 MRC. Make sure to look us up in the little search bar on YouTube. That would be Clark Montessori Athletics. And search us up on Twitter at SoCo Club. And, well, for me, Joey Olberding, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you around. Stay tuned to 95.7 for more Payoff Pitch and so much more.